there's that kind of classic story about the Beatles and the Beach Boys kind of inspiring each other, and Pet Sounds, you know, freaked the Beatles out, and I think it was Pet Sounds led to Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
And that's interesting you say it, because I never thought about it that way, but it wasn't like McCartney and Lennon were looking back at Rachmaninoff or saying like, oh, Robert Johnson was the genius. They were looking at the guy that was their contemporary and saying, I want to make a record as good as Pet Sounds, which is kind of what you're saying. Like, I want to hear the Coldplay or the Strokes records.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Well, that's the thing too. I think a lot of, like, when our lead single that came out, Animal, has this really angular, like, single string guitar intro that people would hear that and say, oh, that's very Strokesy, you know, or they, you know, a lot of comparisons to that. It's like, well, the Strokes have now, like, been around for 10 years. How would a new, you know, alternative band not be influenced by what's considered one of the most, you know, influential alt bands, you know, of the last 10, 15 years? And you feel it too, you know, like when you see a new young songwriter that does channel something that the time-tested classic people have as well, and you're just like, dang, you know, like that's really good. Sure. And there's two things that come to mind. It's like, first, like, why haven't I heard about you? And the second is, you know, how come I'm not doing what you're doing? Mm-hmm. Someone was talking about this the other day. They were watching a drummer play, and they're like, man, it's a drummer watching another drummer thinking, I don't want to play again because that person is so good. So there's always that separation of, like, you know, music is so, you know, artistic and deep, and that you can't be business minded, and you certainly can't be into sports, you know, if you're going to be, you know, a deep artist.
Right.
But, you know, I think that there is, when it's healthy, you know, when those come together.
How important is it for you to come back when you come home after being gone for so long, in, you know, staying in touch with you know, like your friends who write songs and a lot of people who are still trying to make a go of music? I mean, how important is the connection that you still feel with those people? I just asked because a couple weeks ago, you know, I went to Nashville, and of course I called you and said, hey, I'm playing in Nashville. It's a really big gig for me. Do you know anyone that might? Yeah, and you know, it was really great. And
they didn't throw too many eggs.
It was actually ham.
Tomatoes and ham.
They threw ham,
exactly.
which is fine.
But then you just caught it. You're like,
yeah.
You know.
But it was a really big deal for me, and I didn't really, you know, and I hope that it wasn't awkward for you when I called. And I kind of, you know, because we've been friends for so long.
Well, I think the thing with that too, like the first part, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, we had some good opportunities to put our band in front of people,
right?
You know, and are definitely, you know, thankful to Ronnie and the Killers for giving us some shows that you know, brought some attention. But I think it brought attention to something good, you know, that we had something there.
Exactly.
Because, you know, definitely, I mean, over years, it's like I've sent him stuff like, hey, what do you think about this? Or, you know, I know it's like we joke about like, hey, let me share this with you. But it's like, you know, we talked about being business minded in music. Of course you're going to network. Of course you're going to share stuff. Like, you know, you're dumb if you're going to, unless you want to, you know, that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
But, you know, just sit back, hey, I'm just going to make my music. If someone finds out about me, that's cool.
Sure.
And I think with Neon Trees that there was just like, you know what, like this is right up our alley, and this is something that
sure
I wouldn't be embarrassed to say, yeah, you know, I hired them, you know, for you know, for this show or that show. Anyhow, so I think it really comes down to, you know, having something that you know, that people can get behind, and I think that's why, you know, I've been comfortable, you know, sending people out, you know, to your showcases, or, you know, or sharing your demos, you know, stuff that you believe in, as opposed to like, hey, I owe this guy a favor, you know, like he's really crappy.
I was like,
just go, like, you know.
Hey, Branden, you remember that time I picked you up from work? Remember that when your car was broken down? Anyway, so.
Anyways, just need a record deal.
there's been moments where people have called me, you know, maybe industry people, and maybe they've asked about, you know, the songwriters, and I've, you know, I was brutally honest.
Sure.
You know, it's like, no, we just want good music. I don't care who tells me about it. You know, that's the thing. And I think especially like for our band that, yeah, a lot of people knew that I was friends with Ronnie, and he drums in the Killers, and then you sign a record deal, and it makes it easy if the record company can put a sticker on there that says, hey, these guys are friends with this band and this band and this band, so you should like it. And the cool thing is that we were warned from all those bands, like, hey, they tried to do that with us. Don't do it, you know. Let's really let this, you know, build up steam on your own. I don't know, it's just funny because sometimes, you know, people will try to create these excuses of why you've had success and whatever. Sure. And when you, you know, we end up winning a Billboard Music Award, you know, for Best Alternative Song, and you think of all the music and all the songs that were out there, you know, that last year that we won that, and it doesn't go to friend of so and so, you know. It went to Neon Tree.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I know that sounds arrogant or whatever.
No, not at all.
It's just the truth of it, of having something where you can stand, you know, where you can stand on your own or whatever.
You have to be able to show you belong regardless of how you got there, which is what you guys have done. Like, you don't, yeah, like you said, you don't win the Billboard Award because you knew somebody who knew somebody.
Right.
Sure, like there are some things that help you get some footing, but like at the end of the day, you belong.
I think it always comes back to the music. Music being good.
Here's a question: is making it a myth these days? I guess maybe the roundabout question: what is success to Branden Campbell right now?
I wouldn't call it making it. I call it opportunities. I mean, ultimately, like, you know, to define making it, it's really saying I have to work for a living, sure, and I can work playing music. Is there a difference then? Like, if I can get paid playing music, being the guy behind, you know, behind the sheet, no one sees me recording demos all day.
Sure.
But, you know, but I get paid and I make a living, and, oh, I was, you know, on the Tonight Show or the cover of Rolling Stone.